When I first met Marjane, I hadn't seen her work yet and had no idea what it was going to be, and we became good friends when she was watching the Wilcox space. And so we got to know each other a bit, and then when she came to see me and showed me her work, I felt like she had quite a journey ahead.
Marjane has written a thesis on Grace Hartigan, who is a lost to history, but not to the, she left a lot of paintings behind, but an abstract expressionist from the 1950s. And when we think of abstract expressionism, we tend to think of only men, and this is because the women were lost to history and they're just now being written into history. And so Marjane, Grace Hartigan was a great match or model for Marjane because she worked between the figure and abstraction. And I don't know if Hartigan ever really went completely abstract, which I think is also great for Marjane because Marjane is a very gifted figural painter, so can render figures. And with this show, she threw off the Marjane threw off the shackles of conventions of figures and representation and went almost completely abstract, not quite, with faces are sort of present in a few of the works.
In those prosperous days after World War II, which abstract expressionism was the talk of the world of art, and everybody just knew the name of artists like Jackson Pollock, Rothko, or Franz Klein, and no one had idea about women of abstract expressionism.
The idea that abstraction is the apotheosis of where artists must go in the 20th century is really a part of a white man's story, white Eurocentric male story of the apotheosis of art, and it's a very 20th century idea. And that story has crumbled, and because the art world has become global, and you have participants from all over the world. So you can do figural, and Marjane can go back to doing figural and abstraction, and can do whatever she wants. But I know that the exhibition was like an explosion of freedom.
I encountered with a book which published last year, 2018, 90 Street Women, and then I decided to work on one of Grace Hartigan's painting, which was one of this group of women of abstract expressionists, and coincidentally I applied for the Master of Art History program by writing an essay about Joan Mitchell. Joan Mitchell was another women of this group, that they were brave to penetrate to this male-dominant society and had their own position as a woman, as an artist, not as a women artist, just as an artist.
Marjane's on the right track because she's asking all the right questions. She's asking, what is a portrait today? When you look at those paintings, I think that's what any good artist does. I think any good artist throughout history has done, that. If there were a portrait painter, those are the questions they should be asking. What is it to make a picture, to a representation of somebody in this world?
When I heard that there was an artist in 1950s who was under the influence of bridal mannequins in bridal shops in New York, I was immediately related to that idea that maybe I can do this. Gradually, when I dig deep into Grace Hartigan's artistic life, I've learned that she was obsessed with the idea of masks, and not the real masks, the masks that we as women cover our face to cover our interior realities, which was interesting to me.
I think for Marjane herself, it's an important milestone after which there are many paths to take with her own practice. But they're not practices like if she takes one practice or one path, she doesn't kind of erase the others. So she's got a lot of opportunity after the exhibition.
In this series of my paintings, I embraced all the changes and chance happened during the process of art with my paints. It's not like just pouring paints over the canvas. No, it's like controlling over what happened, what the phenomena happened on your canvas, but it's like half controlled, like you are in the hands of the paints, which is beautiful.
Well, let me step back just 2 days before the final opening night, when we were, Marjane and I spent several days moving paintings around, looking. She had an amazing group of work, too much work for the gallery, and which is a wonderful problem to have. So we really got to pick the best out of the best. And we moved paintings around a lot. We shifted things in order for, I wanted her to see the best way to install this work and to put the large canvases down a single wall and then coming out around the corner, and to be able to see this great self-portrait that she had done, that I wanted it to hang so when somebody walked through the gallery door, that was the first thing they saw.
Abstract and realism are two contradictory terms, which is like it's a fusion of two contradictory items, or marriage of these two contradictory terms. But that's my method.
It was a depiction of herself, and in this state of abstraction and representation, sort of right in the middle where the two meet. It was a great way to see a human head or portrait. And so installing the show was a great opportunity to see the variety of the images and the coloration, but to see them all as heads was quite remarkable. And so once we got everything off the ground up onto the walls, it just was like this beautiful opera or concert. I mean, the paintings sang.
Many of these paintings feel like that they're screaming, that they're very expressive, and it occurs to me that all of us need to scream. All of us, every human being has a need to scream, and this artwork feels like that it's her way of screaming, it's her way of crying out and expressing herself, and I love that she has opened herself to that for the rest of us and shown us that in her work. So I really love the series.
Marge showed me that what it really means to be an artist. In her case, it meant to liberate herself, to get in touch with her griefs, her sorrows, her passions, through the only way you can really reach them sometimes is through an expression on the canvas, and her interaction, a literal tangible relationship with art.
She's, in my opinion, a very young artist. This is like she just like out from the gate at a race. I think she is just at the beginning of her career. A very exciting place to be, with a very exciting body of work that she presented this past week. I think it's only going to get better from here. I was blown away that she in 8 months could make that much work at that high level.
There's a great future for Marjane, and what I hope happens is that we curate shows in Dallas and Houston and other places in Texas that show her work, but also that her work gets outside of Texas and is shown in exhibitions in other cities in the United States, but who knows, London, maybe Paris, something like that.